Our message today is about unscrambling eggs. Yes, it's called Unscrambling Eggs. Now, let me give you some background on this. We're talking about Esau and Jacob. Esau was the older brother by minutes, perhaps. He was born hanging onto the heel of his brother Edom. They were fraternal brothers. Now, the father, Isaac, favored Esau. It says because he was a hunter and he used to go and get wild meat and bring it to his father and cook it, and his father liked that. And Jacob was loved by his mother. So there's a proxy war going on here. Now Jacob, he was the second one, and he wanted the birthright. And only the firstborn gets the birthright. So he had actually purchased it from his brother Esau for some red pottage when his brother was hungry. Afterwards, his brother resented that. But what really frosted Esau was when his father decided he was close to death and he wanted his soul to bless Esau, and he sent him out. When I say old, Isaac was like 40 years old when he was born, when he was married to Rebekah. And then it took a while to have the children. I think it was 10 or 20 years. And then, of course, these kids are grown up, so he's probably somewhere around 80 years old, and he thinks it's time to go. And so he tells Esau, go, get me some wild venison, prepare it for me so I can bless you, so that my soul can bless you. He made a point of saying my soul, because this had nothing to do with God. He wanted to give his son something. Of course, Mama heard about it, and she said to Jacob, well, you basically need to fool your dad and get the blessing. He wasn't wild about it, but he said, just do what I tell you to do. Well, he did, but this caused some repercussions. We start at Genesis chapter 27, at verse 41. Because when he stole that blessing, there's something that couldn't be done here. He had scrambled eggs. And you can't unscramble scrambled eggs. So we see the repercussions in chapter 27, verse 41 of Genesis. It says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing, wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. It's like, okay, it's bad enough he's going to kill him. Why was it so important? He didn't really think that much of the inheritance. I mean, he sold the birthright basically for some food. But it was about the relationship he had with his father. He was his father's favorite, and he knew he was his father's favorite. So there was a connection there, and he wanted to get this from his father as much as his father wanted to give it to him. Now, when this got stolen, and it was, he was angry. Now, in this situation, even Isaac himself said, well, this feels like the arms, it was basically blind. And he said, arms feel like my son Esau, but because his mother had him put sheepskin on his arms, because he wasn't hairy like his brother. He said, but the voice is the voice of my son Jacob. He knew better. But God allowed him to be deceived because God didn't want him actually blessing Esau. That's a different issue. But the fact is, the father was deceived and he gave the blessing to Jacob instead of to Esau. And Esau is really angry because this was something between his dad and himself. So it was like getting into the middle of this relationship, stealing something underneath his nose, and he was angry. So what do you do about this? Your brother's going to kill you. So I'm just going to wait for my dad to die, and then I'm going to kill him. Well, he had to wait till his father died because he would be disinherited, and there's all kinds of nasty things. But it's like once his father passes away, then he has a free hand. The days of mourning for my father at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. So this is a tough spot for Jacob to be in. Esau's kind of a macho man, and Jacob, well, he's not. So it's like, okay, he's got a big imposing brother and he's angry. So what are you going to do? He's not up to fighting. These words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, proposing to kill thee. It's like, okay, he's going to feel better after he kills you. Well, I mean, these are both her sons. She doesn't want any of them killed. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, and arise, flee thou to Laban thy brother, to Haran, and tarry with him a few days until thy brother's fury turn away, until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send, fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? Because of course the result of murder is death penalty. Well, there's some interesting things going on here. Mama's proposal is run away. Well, it sounds viable. I mean, if you don't want to get killed, you run away, right? Well, but that's not really solving the problem, is it? Because sooner or later, if he wants to, he will track you down. And he's still angry. Obey my voice. This is the voice of the same woman that got him into trouble the first time around. So there should be a clue here. There should be a clue. This is not going to solve a problem. He's digging a deeper hole. Arise, flee thou to Laban, my brother, to Haran, and tarry with him a few days. When you're angry enough to kill someone, a few days just won't cut it. It's like, this is not going to just go away in a couple days. He wants to kill you. Until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. I like that. It's like she takes no responsibility for what happened. She set it all up. She gets her brother's clothes. She puts the stuff on his arms and on his neck. And it's like, yeah, she's got the whole deception set up. And then she says, what you did to your brother. It's like, this should be another clue. Mom, I don't know if you're giving me the best advice. Okay. And then I will send and fetch you from thence. Okay. So Mama's going to call. Sounds good. Mama's going to call. Well, Jacob's the favorite, right? Sure, Mama will call. We fast forward. Genesis chapter 32. This is 20 years later. More than a few days have passed. And Mama hasn't called. So much for depending on Mama. You know what? When you get yourself into trouble, you can't expect someone else to bail you. The same Mama that got him into trouble didn't take responsibility for it, and she sends him off to a foreign country, and he's there. Oh, wait a few days and I'll call you. 20 years later, Mama hasn't called. What a deal. So we get down to verse 6. Genesis chapter 32, verse 6. He's got some scrambled eggs here. His brother wants to kill him. His mama sends him away. And the problem is not solved. He's got distance between them, but the problem is not solved. Okay. Now we should be able to relate to this. It's like, because we've all pulled one of these at some point. We dug a hole for ourselves, and then we don't know what to do. So we keep digging a deeper hole, think that we can dig our way out. You know, it's like trying to borrow your way out of debt. It just doesn't work. So we start at verse 6. 20 years later, he decides, well, he doesn't decide. God says it's time to go home. Well, it has nothing to do with Mama anymore. He's listening to God. He's got a relationship with God now. He's had 20 hard years that I suspect wouldn't have had to happen if he would have done what he did in the first place. But that's a whole different issue. That's a whole different issue. God used that situation. He went through 20 hard years. 14 to get 2 wives and another 6 years. And his father-in-law changed his wages 10 times. He was a tough guy. He was a manipulator. Just like his mama. Just like him too. So God says, time to go home. Except he's got a problem. His father-in-law's not too wild about him going. He works that through before we get to this. But now he's going home and he still has the same problem. He obviously hasn't been talking to Daddy, Mommy, or his brother Esau. All he knows